The bank cancellation scandal in Britain is escalating. First, we had Nigel Farage, who announced that he was cancelled by a bank, and then when we discovered it was Coots and Co. And then we had other stories coming out. Now, the Chancellor of this country, Jeremy Hunt, he's been cancelled by Monzo. What is happening? All right, so firstly, it's interesting that this story came out because clearly the government and Jeremy Hunt briefed the media and the press about his case, right? So first things first, ask questions. Why now? Why is it that Jeremy Hunt wants us to know he's been cancelled by Monzo? I think it helps the narrative to not necessarily to completely distract us, but to basically say, we are serious about this. Look, Jeremy got cancelled by Monzo because of the EU regulations around the PEP, the people who are exposed politically, nonsensical ideas. So this whole thing, which was created by organizations like the EU as an idea and other major institutions and legal institutions, because they wanted to clamp down and have a crackdown on any political dissent. That was the whole idea. So they initially had that years ago, and they knew not necessarily to personally target Nigel Farage, but then all the Nigel Farages in the future, so that you could have a tough life if you challenge the establishment. Now, Jeremy Hunt has been cancelled, so now we're going to see a situation where this problem is going to get fixed. I can assure you they're going to fix it to an extent because the Chancellor is in trouble. So he's not the only one. Ken Clarke got into trouble as well. He used to be Chancellor as well. It can also be revealed that a string of peers and members of the House of Lords, including Lord Clarke of Nottingham, one of Mr. Hunt's predecessors as Chancellor, have had their credit cards cancelled because of what they believe to be an overzealous application of the rules by American Express. So he actually said that I decided that I could not be bothered with such outrageous burdens being placed on me. Having had my card from some time in the 1970s, I've allowed them to cancel it. Well, that's just sad. I know obviously Ken Clarke is now retired, he needs to take a break, but other people shouldn't really just completely surrender and say, well, fine, just cancel it. I just don't really care anymore, because that's how you allow them to continue. So that you got these processes and checks and applications for money laundering and everything else, and they are so weird that the Chancellor of the Exchequer in this country has been denied of having access to his bank account or a new bank account. And again, the Financial Conduct Authorities, the FCA, also need to sort out their own operation, because they were the ones who should have been able to translate it better. The FCA said, over the past 18 months, we have reminded banks of the need to be proportionate. Some have improved their processes as a result, and they all now have a direct point of contact for people to report issues. But is that really enough? Firstly, you reminded the banks. Secondly, direct point of contact for people to report issues. Yeah, reporting the issue is not the same as actually resolving the issue, or it's not the same as not having the issue in the first place. So that is a fundamental problem with this whole story. So we also have a number of others, including Lord Forsyth, who's a former Scottish secretary, told the House of Lords that I have had an American Express card since 1979, and yet only recently I got an email, which I assume was a spoof, that said that I had to provide copies of my passport and bank statements, details of my investment and income, and my payslips, such as they are, to American Express within a certain number of days. Then I got another email telling me that my card had been suspended because I had failed to produce this material. When I rang American Express, they said, unless you produce it, your card will remain suspended. Of course, there were a number of payments on my card which caused me some embarrassment. This is a completely disproportionate use of the regulations. So that's the other thing. While we blame organizations like the European Union for coming up with these ideas, we should also blame our own establishment here for even misusing it even further and not really translating it properly. So big government, so we voted to leave the European Union partly because we were against big government, the concept of big government, and obviously continental government and bureaucrats in Brussels. But we didn't do it to have big government in this country instead. We the whole point of it was to go towards more freedom rather than order and control. Now we'll see how everything goes. With this story, I have a feeling now we're going to see some changes because of Jeremy Hunt, because it's happened to him. So suddenly he's come out to announce that. Interesting. But yeah, don't get distracted with all the nonsensical obstacles that they create for ordinary people. I'm Mahyar Tousi, and we are the media.